We're out here having a look at my hot lemon drop chilies. These are the ones I sowed from seed back in January, and we're now in July. It's taken this long for them to get to the flowering stage. So that's why you have to start a bit early, just to make sure you actually get a season in with these guys, especially when you live in a colder climate like up here. Right now we're actually experiencing a bit of a heat wave, which is really unusual, but really we're thankful for that. And you can see that the leaves of the chili plants are sort of curling in, just protecting themselves from the sun. They are kind of in a protected spot here. I mean, I've tried to put them in a hot position because they do like that, but they don't want to be totally scorched, and they seem to be doing all right. There's no sign of sun scorch or anything like that on the leaves. I had a really good germination rate with these plants, so I've got 19 of them, because I think all 20 did actually germinate, but then I lost one when I was transplanting them. So they're doing really well. And I also showed you at one point how I nipped the tops off of them to get them to branch out, and as you can see, all the plants here are really sturdy little fellows with lots of branches on them, so they're doing really well. I have to keep them in pots because I just haven't got any good sunny spot for them to be in soil. I'm sort of run out of space, and this patio has lots of sun. It's the perfect spot for them to be, so it does keep quite a few of my plants happy here. I'm going to treat them as annuals. You can keep them coming back every year, because they can actually overwinter indoors, but I found I tried that last year and they got completely covered in whitefly, and that spread to my other indoor plants, and I really was not happy with that. So I'm just going to let them, you know, have a harvest, have the fruits, and then save some of the seeds from this year's harvest, because they can of course cross-pollinate. If you have several different types of chili growing in your garden, they'll probably cross-pollinate with each other, and you'll have like an interesting mix of chilies. But as I'm only growing one type, I'm only growing hot lemon drop chilies, then the seeds should be true, and so next year I could grow some of these very same plants without paying for seeds. So that's quite interesting and fun to do, so I'll do that. But what I wanted to show you is how to ensure that they don't drop their flowers, because quite often if it gets really hot they will also drop them. So I'm trying to keep them moist and watered. I give them some water in the morning and maybe in the evening as well, just to make sure when it's extra hot like this they do need extra moisture, otherwise they will drop their flowers due to stress. But another thing that can happen is if they're not being pollinated, then they will also drop the flower, obviously. And so when they're outside, they are self-pollinating. And so what they need to do is, they're just like tomatoes in that respect. They have the pollen, which is at the top of the flower, and it needs to get down into the ovary, which is in the middle of the flower. So the wind will come along and shake the plant and shake that pollen down into the ovary, and that's how it would get pollinated and fertilized, and you'd have the little chili growing that way. But if you haven't got any wind, if you're in the house, then what you can do is grab a hold of the bottom of the stem and then just shake it, and that sort of mimics what the wind would do, and it helps shake that pollen down into the ovary and get it fertilized and make a beautiful chili. It's also what bees do. They just sort of move the pollen from flower to flower and fertilize them too that way. So, but we can just do that just to be sure it actually does work. I mean, when they're outdoors it should happen naturally, but you just never know, so it's always handy to be able to give it a hand. But I'll show you how it goes. I'll show you how it progresses, how when we finally get some delicious chilies. I can't wait, and I'll see you next time. Until then, happy gardening.